It is Wednesday morning, which means it is time for yet another episode of 1 Year Later, the series where we take a look at prospects taken in the 2022 NHL Entry Draft and talk about their profiles 1 year removed from said draft. Now, we talked a little bit about some Montreal Canadiens guys. The first overall pick, Yuri Slafkovsky, is the one we started off the series with pretty much. We also talked about the pick at the end of the first round. You had Philip Mesar getting his video made for him. But in today's video, I wanted to talk more so about Montreal players and talk about a guy taken in the second round. No, he is not the one that is the most popular prospect on Earth, it seems, but a guy taken at the beginning of round number 2 that has made such an amazing name for himself since. Today, we are heading over to the Peterborough Petes in the OHL and talking about Owen Beck. Now, Beck is a really interesting prospect, 19 years old, 6 feet, 190 pounds, right-handed center who is already signed by the Canadiens on his ELC. He was taken 33rd overall, so this is the first pick of the second round pretty much, which is a spot where he was projected to kind of going a little bit. I mean, you had future considerations, McKean's and Bob McKenzie all ranking him straight up at number 33, so that's exactly on the money as to where Beck ended up going in the draft. Elite prospects were a bit higher on him. They had him at 21. Button was a tad lower. He had Beck at number 35, so definitely in the range as to where he was going to go. Beck was an accurate pickup for the Canadiens in this spot. And for good reason, too. Heading into the draft, there was this sort of underlying idea among scouts on social media communities that Beck had a lot of the similar skills that made Shane Wright a very potent two-way competent center. It's just, of course, Beck was not in the same talent caliber of Wright. Some people called him Shane Wright-LITE, if you wanted to throw that term around. We made a few videos about that claim as well. But Owen Beck, in the draft season's worth of play he had in 21-22, had 51 points in 68 games played. This comes after missing an entire OHL season in 2020-2021 because the league did not operate due to the virus. He also had the Elite Prospects scouting report here, saying that Owen Beck is a powerful skater with a good mix of crossovers and gets to his top speed quickly. He uses that speed to back defenders up and even rush right past them on some sequences. Beck also uses his speed to provide constant support at every corner of the ice. He is the ultimate play connector, always offering his teammates a passing option and showing a great knack for linking defense to offense. Not to mention the skills that he had in his own zone, just the defensive presence, the awareness, how he thinks the game is such a great tool that he has that puts him above other prospects at the center position. And it didn't take long for Canadiens fans to be impressed with Beck heading into 2022-2023. This is because with the same Mississauga Steelheads team, Beck had 41 points in 30 games played, a really great point production metric. He was then traded over to the Peterborough Petes in the OHL to help them load up in the playoffs, where he was under a point per game. Now, you could say that the production dropped off, but that's kind of okay because the Peterborough Petes were a stacked OHL team that went out there with the intention of loading up on everybody that was good. They had multiple point per game guys, and in the postseason, you saw Brennan Othman, Tucker Robertson, Connor Lockhart all doing their thing as well. It wasn't the biggest deal in the world that Beck's point production had dropped off. He also played for Team Canada at the World Juniors, playing in 3 games and getting 1 assist, and even had a Montreal Canadiens game at the end of the season wherein he logged up 0 points. And the thing is, you might look at these numbers and point production metrics and say, oh, he had 1 point at the World Juniors, cool. He had 1 game played at the NHL level, cool. But the thing you have to realize about that is that Owen Beck for the majority of the season was 18 years old, and this is a guy who was taken in the second round of the most recent draft. The fact that a second round guy is playing in the NHL the year after being drafted in any capacity, that is already a magnificent feat. Sure, he only played for 1 game at the end of the season, but that still is impressive, just the fact that he was deemed ready enough to be able to play and handle the NHL duties at only 18-19 years old. In fact, here is the Dobber Prospects report on Beck from January of 2023, so in the midst of his OHL season this previous year, written by Aaron Itovich. Owen Beck appears to be an absolute steal of a pick by the Habs. After an incredibly impressive training camp where he earned his ELC, Beck returned to the Mississauga Steelheads having a breakout Draft+1 season. The points, 39 points in 25 games, is not representative of his elite game. He was traded to the Peterborough Petes in pursuit of a Memorial Cup, hopefully no longer playing second fiddle to Luca Del Belbaluz, and being given more dynamic line mates will allow him to have an explosive end of the season. His defensive IQ is phenomenal, his shot has developed quite a bit, and he's becoming more comfortable playing the role of a scoring threat. While he still is a pass-first kind of guy, he has the hockey sense to know when shooting is opportunistic. Beck was in the conversation for a roster spot as early as this year. But as a second-round pick, keeping him in the OHL for development was the right move. As the Habs sell off veterans, Beck is likely to find himself a nice role as the team's third-line center for the 23-24 season. You also had yourselves an article posted on Sportsnet. This is Eric Engels from a few days ago during the rookie camp. Reinbacher is one of the 5 players to keep an eye on at Canadiens rookie camp. The article will be linked in the description if you want to go ahead and read more about this. But the write-up that Engels has on Beck is a really good one. I wanted to read this one out here too. The 6-foot, 197-pound center who was drafted 33rd was the talk of last year's training camp, earning high praise from management and coach Marty St. Louis, as well as his ELC. Beck took that confidence back to the OHL and ran with it like Usain Bolt out of the gate of a 100-meter sprint, notching 14 goals and 23 points in his first 16 games with the Steelheads. He was a late add to Team Canada, but an essential cog in their gold medal bid at the World Junior Championship. And then he turned out to be a key player for the Peterborough Petes through the back half of what turned out to be a championship season. He's got an NHL shot and an NHL skating stride, but what gives Beck a real insight to potentially making the Canadiens are his NHL habits. I've always been known as a two-way player who can play both sides of the puck, the 19-year-old said on Thursday. Beck then referred to himself as that Swiss Army knife type player that coaches love. It's an accurate self-assessment from a player who excels in the face-off circle, can play both special teams, play effectively at both ends of the ice, and be a threat at center or wing, all while processing the game at NHL speed. Here are some more comments from him talking about the preseason games he had played last year, as well as the one NHL game he had on January 28th. It was just realizing the pace, seeing how strong guys are, how physical and fast they are, and how little time you have on the ice. You've got to be able to implement that into your training and be able to learn to play at that higher level consistently every night. You can't have days off in the NHL. That's the takeaway I got from that game. And so when it comes to the way Beck has grown from last year to this year, a lot of the things that made him great have just gotten better. His awareness, how he reads the game, and the prospects game against the Buffalo Sabres, there was a really great play that was making the rounds on social media where Owen Beck kind of hunts down Buffalo Sabres prospect Yuri Kulich on a breakaway and ends up stealing the puck away, not taking a penalty in the process. The way Beck understands the game of hockey around him is sublime, and he's one of the best thinkers the Canadiens have in their prospect pipeline, and it's one of the better value pickups they have too, considering the fact that he's a second-round guy that really bolstered up his OHL campaigns the years to come. This is a player to keep your eye on. And when it comes to the future, I mean, look, we've already talked about the Canadiens and their centers. They have Nick Suzuki, they have Doc, they have Newhook, they still have Dvorak, they've got Monahan still on the team as well. If Owen Beck can come out here and actually show off that he's better than some of these players, I wouldn't think it's impossible. Like, I don't think it's an impossibility that Owen Beck absolutely breaks the doors down during training camp, as he had done last year, and shown well off enough that he could belong on an NHL roster this upcoming year. A lot would need to go right for that to happen, but I don't think it's impossible. Either way, though, if he doesn't make the team this upcoming season, that is totally fine. He'll still have another chance at being a World Juniors prospect next season, and playing another season in the OHL where he is absolutely on top of the league will do great things for his development too. Just how he's able to read the game, his shot, his skills, the speed that he plays with, Owen Beck has it all. He described himself as a Swiss Army knife type player, and this seems to be the Swiss Army knife type steal the Canadiens had in their second round of last year's draft. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the way Owen Beck has developed from last year to this year? What are your thoughts about how he was when the Canadiens drafted him 33rd, and how have those opinions changed or evolved over the past 12 months? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Owen Beck and the way he's progressed. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.